Be doing a panel discussion on startups in South Africa. If you want to join in or just listen. Anyway, so just some introductions. My name's Dave Niel. I'm managing partner of Tangent Solutions and a Microsoft regional director. And I'm just going to ask my panel to do some introductions.
Hi guys, my name is Zeeman. It's not as loud as I'd expected. I run my own business. I'm technically not a startup, but I did start it. I've been going for about 8 years now, and I'm primarily focused in the development VSDS TFS process space.
We agreed on that. Hi everyone. So Tracy, I have my Tracy. Is this a woman thing? Is this a... Hello? No. Okay, take 2. Ready? So Tracy van der Schyff, I've got my own company, it's called The Good Stuff. And so from a startup point of view, I suppose I've got a bit of all of that in there, but I focus on Office 365 and I'm what I consider a Microsoft whisperer. I go into companies and I fix their fear of things, and I'm a therapist when it comes to productivity, I'd say, and breaking down the fear of new things. And for now, I'll just hand over to Al then.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hi, my name is not David Niel.
He's going to do that again.
I'm Alistair Pugin. I do not do anything that these two people have done on both my sides, and I don't know why I'm here, but apparently they put me here, so I'll try and contribute as much as possible. I do not work for a startup. I've been working in the corporate space for the better part of 20 years, so I suppose that's my viewpoint on where startups are, right? Yeah.
So I think the first question is, on the Microsoft Azure platform, where do you see that, where's opportunities for startups to start leveraging the technology that's in Azure, and especially the cloud platform? So I think let's not try to limit the conversation to be Azure. And there's cloud platform and modern workplace conversations that really are important choices for startups as well. So Niel, I know you're an ALM ranger. Where do you think Microsoft's ALM stack could really benefit startups?
Well, if you look at it, in my opinion, one of the big problems with startups is quality. They're very gung-ho, chaotic, there's no structure to how they work. It's all about developing a product and getting it out as quickly as possible. So something like VSDS, Azure, that kind of stuff, that brings a sense of quality, it brings the sense of stability and, what's the word I'm looking for? Scalability, but regularity as well to the party.
Al?
So, back in the old days, before there were cloud-based services, you'd have to physically go out, walk into an Incredible Connection or some other company and go spend money on hardware. And then you'd need to find someone to come back to your office, pay them an exuberant amount of money to configure things that could break when the power goes down. Never mind trying to build your business on top of that. In today's world, cloud first, mobile first, you are able to spin up a tenant in 43 minutes and have email on your own. As long as you have a domain.
30 minutes.
So, gone are the days where you have to have a web administrator to build your website, where you have to find an exchange person to sort out your mail, where you have to worry about being able to send someone an instant message. You can do it now from the comfort of your own office. You can have a virtual office, and the time to getting to market has been increased exponentially with the tooling that's available. And it's not just from a Microsoft perspective, but that's really where cloud services are in South Africa. So the benefits for startups is you can literally start the idea in the morning, and by the afternoon you can be online.
I think for me, definitely. So when I started my company, it was just me. I didn't have the technical skill to do all of those crazy things and buy stuff and configure it. And it was really inexpensive to get up a whole environment that I used to help companies put in place that cost millions. And I could just have it, which was really, really incredible. But also I think is the remote worker and virtual office environment is just incredible, because these days I can save money and tell a client I'm not going to go to a meeting and not be like difficult, because we're supposed to adopt technology. I can say, let's rather do this over Skype, not because I want to save petrol money or not drive there, but why don't we do this over Skype, or why don't we spin up a guest team where we can do these type of things. So for me, the productivity stack that allows us to have that. And if I just think for me, just for my business, I can have Power Apps and Flow and Sway and Forms and all of that for a subscription. I mean, it's incredible to have all of that, and someone else is taking care of it. Some really well-paid dude somewhere in a data center is watching after my stuff. I don't have to pay for that. Okay, maybe like medium-paid dude in a data center. But for me, that's wonderful, and I think a lot of people are kept back from new business because of that infrastructure that they don't know how to get up. And I mean, that's the biggest layer and the foundation for our productivity is the tools that we use, and having that so fast and relatively available is just incredible.
Yeah, I think you're touching on a great point about enterprise-grade technology being accessible to everyone. And as you said, it would traditionally take quite a bit of work and quite a bit of money to spin up those resources. So I think that's a fantastic point for startups. I mean, one thing that's sort of an interesting point is traditionally Microsoft's been viewed, especially in the startup or non-traditional Microsoft space, as kind of like evil core. And recently we've seen a lot of change in Microsoft's culture and their adoption of new technologies. I mean, what would you say if someone was to say, Microsoft's not for me because I'm a startup? How would you answer that from just a cultural perspective?
I'd happily say go and invest your time and effort on another platform and then call me in 3 months. Because everyone watches cricket, right? We all understand cricket. I'm not in a different country. We can associate. So Microsoft is the Jacques Callis of IT. Think about it realistically, right? So Jacques Callis is the best all-rounder in the world. All right? Gone are the days where people used to go and say, well, Oracle's the best database platform, because it's not. There's so many others. The same with everything else. I know Linux is better than Windows, and so forth. But you can go to AWS, you can go get specific services, Elasticsearch and all of those things, great. SAP HANA, all of that. And then you can go to Google and you can go get some services from Google. And then you can go to another service, another cloud provider. There's a whole bunch of them, I can't remember the top of my head. But when you want an integrated platform, so look at OneDrive, perfect example. So why should you move to OneDrive? Because you get an entire Office experience integrated into OneDrive. You don't get that in Dropbox. You don't get it in Box, Google Drive. So it's really about providing that all-rounder capabilities where everything is connected intrinsically to give you that value add. And that's why for me, when someone says, but we're going, and there are a lot of companies doing that in South Africa, we're going Google Drive, great. Go and carry on. Speak to me in 6 months when you don't have the functionality that's available in the Microsoft cloud stack.
To take this a step further, the old Microsoft is also something of a stigma. This hippie culture of open source is cheap, all that kind of stuff. Realizing that Microsoft is currently one of the biggest open source contributors in the world. Okay, they are. So they are actually embracing this whole concept of open source probably a lot quicker than the majority of corporates in this country, I can tell you that much. Then, in addition to that, there's also programs and stuff that Microsoft runs where they give you this shit for free. I mean, look at BizSpark, looking at For Africa, all those initiatives, they give it to you for free to build your application.
Yeah, and that's great support for startups. I mean, that initial, unless you got a funder, that sort of initial funding from Microsoft or that support from Microsoft can really be invaluable. And one of the things, Tracy, you mentioned was startup culture. And what tools would you recommend for things like remote work to increase collaboration and innovation within a company?
So that's definitely was an interesting discussion we had early on, because startup culture on its own means something different. If you had to go and bing startup culture, then you'll see that they're talking about that very hippie environment and the colored ottomans and the glass walls, and people are just and there's a bingo board and I don't know, like all these funny, or a foosball table or something. It's all these cool cultures, like that you see in the movies. So they kind of consider that as startup cultures as well, where the hierarchy is flat, the management level is different, and that type of thing. So if you look at that, it's not just about starting a company on your own. It's also about starting something that's different, that fits in with new technology, with new ways of doing things. And if I had to suggest to guys, of course I'm going to be a big fan of Microsoft Teams, because Teams was open for guest access. It means I can now, when I have a project with external parties, also use Microsoft Teams, and I can have it all together. I'm sure all of us are sick and tired of going through our Outlook and finding emails and trying to make sense of it. Okay, so Microsoft Teams definitely the way to go. But if I look at what sits inside of Teams, if I think for taking notes and for brainstorming and amazing things like that, is using OneNote, of course. Getting feedback from people is using forms. Bringing your reports in from your projects and things is adding a tab for Power BI in your Microsoft Teams. Adding your planner in there for your objectives and your light project management, if I can put it that way. And of course, with Office Graph as well, it's bringing in all the documents that you work with together, all the conversations that you're having. This is also grouped in your topics in your team. So for me, Teams is the way to go, for sure. I mean, that just brings everything together and allows us to add everything in there. Even Flow is now open for the integration into Teams. So for me, Teams is the next best thing to slice white bread, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned Flow again. I think and serverless is a massive topic of conversation, and I think one of the things I really enjoy is, if you look at serverless, you look at Azure Functions, you look at Flow, they're all much of a muchness. They're all the same, they're made from the same shape. So if you can do the one, you can do the other. If you can do Flow, you can do Azure Functions. It's not, or you can do Logic Apps. Well, you can do Logic Apps.
Yes, Logic Apps, yeah.
Logic Apps and Flow.
It's very different.
Fair enough, fair point. So in terms of Azure adoption, Niel, what's your thoughts on startups in Azure? Do you think they have a place within Azure?
I think there's fairly strong adoption for Azure in startups. I deal in the Microsoft space, so a lot of the startups I get to grips with are actually these that have been taken under the wing of Microsoft, and obviously there's a push for Azure in those, thinking of the BizSpark program, that kind of stuff. So by the nature of, once again, the stuff has been given to you, there's adoption for it, and obviously in this day and age, having kit on premise is stupid, especially when you're restrained from a financial point of view. So the adoption for cloud providers is definitely there. It's now to get them to actually acknowledge Azure as the premier route to follow.
Yeah, I really enjoy the fact you guys are talking about on-premise and startups, and actually one of the reasons Tangent became a cloud-born company, funnily enough, is within our first 6 months, we were burgled twice. And and that's why we went to the cloud, because we were just over being burgled. We were over losing our servers. So there's a lot to be said for not to have to worry about those security concerns.
So Dave, just a question from our side. Custom dev, right?
Correct.
Right. Circa 2008, when there was no cloud. Right. So implementing DevOps at that level must have been an excruciating process. So for the guys out there who want to build apps, as a startup, you've got a great idea and you think, well, I need to build a mobile app because there's this gap that I have and I want to build a mobile app. And this is this business that I want to start. moving to Azure, from your perspective, I mean, that's what you guys do, right? And you build stuff in Azure. Comparing 2008 to 2018, what have you seen the advancements that would make you only go to Azure from a DevOps perspective versus trying to start a startup buying tin?
Well, good question and well moderated. But yeah, I 100% agree with that point. I mean, right now, I mean, one of our guys presented on DevOps in Azure, and to do that with physical tin is actually a massive amount of effort. I mean, in the mobile app space that you mentioned, I mean, App Center is such a productivity aid. It enables you to test on multiple devices. It basically enables you to do massive regression testing, see what your builds can do on Android devices that are, you know, on API version 13, 14, barely in support anymore, on iPhone 10s. So it really gives you a scope of vision to enable to execute across a broad audience. And I mean, the fact that your DevOps is also to a degree serverless or software as a service rather, removes the complication. I don't need to configure a build server. I just need to write code, and then I need to tell Visual Studio build and deploy, and then it goes. It does its thing. The hosting's taken care of, the security's taken care of. All I need to focus on is building my app, which is my idea. I'm not necessarily a security expert, but I'm an expert at being creative and innovative, and I know the problem I'm trying to solve, but I don't necessarily know how to back shit up. I don't need to know how to make secure my environment. That's being taken care of. So that's a great question and a good point.
I think something to consider as well, because we've been talking a lot about tin and saving and not having to need, you know, that stuff at your own office that can get burgled, I suppose. But I think something to remember as well. So let's look at a small company again. So there's me, and there's Brahm, my sheep. He doesn't get paid much. There's a farming law that covers that stuff. But anyway, so there's us, and if I think of skills as well, so it's so difficult in a smaller company to get the right skill firstly, but also to afford it. Sometimes you need a skill that you only need once a month, but now you have to pay someone a salary for it because you need that person around. And for me, that's a tremendous benefit from Office 365, Microsoft 365, is that it doesn't just give me the apps and services or the tin, you know, in another way. It also gives me people. It gives me resources that are doing things for me all the time without me paying them extra for it, without me wondering whether they can do their job or wondering about the HR department. So think of it this way. Microsoft 365 is even solving an HR problem for me because I don't have to employ people. I don't have to check if they're okay, if they know what they're doing, because someone else is doing it. So part of my subscription is going towards paying someone that looks at my services, paying someone that's also developing my services. So if I had to have in my company a little HR solution that looks at leave applications and things, you know what that costs you to upgrade it? If I had to once a year or get someone like Dave to come and fix my HR solution, it's going to cost me a lot of money. But now I can actually tomorrow morning sign in and say, oh look, that's new. That just got updated overnight and I didn't have to pay for it. It's part and parcel of what I use every day. And that for me is incredible. The way it allows us to have, like you said, enterprise assets without having the environment or the business or the money is incredible.
Yeah, I really love those points. And one thing I sort of like to touch on is we've been speaking about Azure or Microsoft Cloud Platform across its breadth. But as a tool to empower or enable startups. I mean, is it possible for startups to base their product to service gaps that Azure or the Microsoft Cloud has? I mean, how extensible is the Microsoft Cloud?
So a couple of weeks ago, where's my friend Warren? When we start talking about extensibility and scalability and compute power. In Azure right now, if you move to Azure, you can simulate a denial of service attack. So if you want to know how well Microsoft scales, to have a look at, you can literally tell them that you're going to simulate a denial of service attack to see how well it would scale and actually protect you. So scalability functionality as well. Also extensibility. Microsoft loves Linux. They're part of the Linux Foundation, and they have these cool words like Kubernetes and flannel, and flannel's a word that's used in Azure. It's not. Flannel's a part of the orchestration tooling. So even if you're working on a Linux environment, you can still take your Linux development skills that you have in your organization and move that into containers, not only with Azure Container Services, but also with Docker. So Microsoft has embraced not only Microsoft technologies inside of Azure, but they can also scale at large with non-Microsoft technologies. So if you're writing code in Python or Perl or any of those other funny languages that always sound like flannel and you need a big beard and wearing flannel shirt to build on top of, you can bring those developers... Super skinny jeans. You can actually bring Linux into the Azure fold and you don't have to drink the Microsoft Kool-Aid to use Linux inside of Azure. Azure's there for everyone. It's not stigmatized or put in a corner, stereotyped for just Microsoft people. I mean, look at Visual Studio. You can write in any... Visual Studio code's free, by the way, and it will compile, right? Yes, yeah. Not just C#. Yes, and I'm not a developer, so yeah. The extensibility of the platform is exponential. And when we get the data centers here, we'll be empowering local, proudly South African people to actually maintain the people that she pays will be local.
To just add to this, we are probably, majority of us are technology focused, so questions like that pop up, integration, technologies, platforms, how do you develop, all that kind of stuff. Just a little humorous side, about last year sometime, towards the end of last year, I was approached by one of my clients. He said he has a friend that does a gym, and he asked me, this friend is having hassles with booking systems, and he wanted to know if I could develop him a booking system. And well, I'm too lazy to go and develop a booking system, so just for shits and giggles, this will probably have to get moderated afterwards. I had a look in Azure, and Office 365 has a booking system. Go figure, right?
No, it's a great tool, and it really emphasizes the point of using software as a service to empower yourself. You don't have to do it yourself. Where there's commodity software, use the commodity software and focus on your differentiator, focus on your competitive edge. I just want to take a quick check in the audience. Is anyone running a startup? Anyone got a new business? Cool. What's been your experience of Microsoft?
Amazing. Again, sorry, it's been amazing. Sitting at your dining room table, you kind of just pick it all up. Got a website, got an email address, got my office, got templates for a business plan, got templates for a proposal, got templates for invoicing, so it's been cool.
Do you think it's fair to say, a startup culture is not necessarily, or perceived by startups as not in sync with Microsoft? Has it enabled you? And do you think that has any merit whatsoever to say that Microsoft is not a startup-friendly company?
I've got an answer for that. It's a hell of a startup-friendly company in terms of making use of the technology, but I have to say partnering with Microsoft as a startup is flippin' difficult.
Okay, on that point, and it's a very good point. So one of the things is Microsoft's a partner-led business. So partners will be your friend in that scenario. So also, being a partner-led business, you have to put effort into networking within Microsoft, and that's really important. Yeah.
So just so you know, Dave's a good guy to know when you struggle with things like partner relationships. Absolutely. It's who you know, baby.
All right, Dave.
Okay, so we're running a bit short on time. It's like parting shots.
All right, so in closing, thanks everyone for attending Tech Summit. We know that we have water problems, but it did rain. And if you're thinking of starting your own business, the tooling is available, super cheap. You don't have to walk into Incredible to buy anything, or Matrix Computer Warehouse or anything like that. You literally, as long as you've got an internet connection, don't let anything hold you back. Become entrepreneurial, find your passion, work hard at it, and the tooling is available for you.
And from my side, I'm actually run a couple of startup investment companies. We work quite closely with Microsoft, and the relationship's been 100% positive. And I really encourage anyone who's looking to work with startups and to invest with Microsoft is to connect with your partner managers, to plug into the One Commercial Partner movement. If you don't know what that is, I encourage you to engage with Microsoft again, your partner development managers, and there is an ecosystem there to support you, from a build with to a marketing to a go-to-market and a co-sell. There really is fantastic ecosystems within Microsoft to take your business from a startup to a full-blown successful company. So thank you to my panelists. It's been fantastic, great conversation. And yeah, thanks for everyone, and hope you enjoyed this and enjoy Tech Summit.
Thanks everyone.